Hello, happy Thursday, I think. And thank you so much for joining me today for this JVSG listening session to discuss FY25 annual funding applications. It looks like our recording has already started without a hitch for a change, so happy to see that. All right, so hopefully today's session will help you get through the annual funding applications smoothly, make this process easier for you and less rework for both you and vet staff. We're always excited about that. So for today, go ahead. Ah, so that reminds me of a few alibis, disclaimers I've got for you. First, I already let you know that the session's being recorded. We can't allow the use of AI and any bots we see will be removed from the meeting. And also, if we do see some accidental hot mics, we hear some feedback and we notice someone's mic is unmuted, maybe accidentally, we'll just go ahead and mute those for you without making too big a deal of it. All right, so today I plan to, I'll kick it off with an overview of the annual funding apps process, and then dive into some areas that I think, some problem areas, common problem areas where we'd like to see some improvement this year. So I think I have about 25 slides today. It's all based on what I think you'll want to know, but I don't know what you want to know. You've seen a copy of the slides. Hopefully you received that yesterday, last night. And but as I go through, stop me, when we get to that topic of something that you want more information about, go ahead and raise your hand. I may finish my thought, but I'll try between slides to check for any raised hands to make sure that we're focusing most on what you would like to know. So speaking of that, if you're shy, you can use the chat. You can plug your questions in chat, and I'll get to those as time permits. But we all appreciate it if you ask your questions out loud because it allows for more context, and also bonus points if you turn your camera on while you're asking your question. Vets does issue bonus points. We don't, but I would still appreciate it. Okay, next up, so we'll dive in with our overview. I always like to kick this off with the reason why we ask you to submit an annual funding application. Yes, of course you're going to get the grant. That part's not in question, but we need to like all collectively go through this exercise because it's how the agency complies with law. So there's statute and regulations that we have to comply with. And in order to do that, to keep our program in compliance, we need your applications, and we need certain information involved, and we need them filled out a certain way. The annual funding applications also establish the instrument through which we are able to deliver funding. Without the application part, we just don't have we can't mail you a check. We don't have a way to send you JVSG funds without it. And aside from all that, it's just a good idea to have our agreement written. So if any contract or grant, whether federal or state or private, it has documentation involved so that all parties know what's expected of them. And then finally, my favorite reason for annual funding applications is that it sets a framework for quarterly reporting. I love your quarterly reports. Gives us great data, and but without establishing the plan, your planned budget and staffing levels, then there's nothing to compare it to. And quarterly reports are required to have that plan versus actual comparison. So we need you to have a good plan, budget and staffing levels, particularly, And then in your quarterly reports, you compare what you're doing with your approved plan. Okay. A quick list of the 6 components of an annual funding application. Now, for some of you, there may only be 5, but there should be no more than 6. The 6 components are the transmittal memo that you upload as an attachment, and that is, yes, and the SF-424, a standard form that everyone applying for federal fundings has to use, which is an online form in Grant Solutions. The VETS 401, our very special way of asking for your budget. And that is, it's a replacement for most grant recipients would use the SF-424A, but we need a little bit more and different information from that. So we have a special form, and it also is completed online. The VETS 501, VET Staffing Directory, is also submitted as an attachment to your application, as well as your approved JVSG state plan. Now, and finally, some of you will have an approved indirect cost rate document to attach to your application. For some of you, you simply don't have one, and quite yet, that's approved. And that's fine. You would just address that in your transmittal memo. All right, and we'll go in just a little more detail for each of those 6 components here. To answer the question in chat, yes, the recording will be available to you after the session, not immediately. It would take a few days or possibly 2 weeks, but we do want to deliver that to you as soon as possible after this session. We'll share it I will share it through the invitation. So anyone who accepted this invitation or at least didn't decline it, I'll reply all so that you'll get that link there. Thanks for your question. Where were we? Transmittal memo. Yes. So for the transmittal memo, this is in any format you like. A letter, a memo, it can look beautiful, or it can just be on letterhead, and you attach it to your annual funding application. That transmittal memo is it can be in plain language, just saying what you want and what you'll use the money for, at a high level. There are a few explanations and assurances that we have to require. And then finally, it has to be assigned, or it has to be signed rather, by the person who is taking responsibility for the grant. That's called your authorized representative. This is very important. It does not have to be the same person who was your authorized representative in FY25. It can be a brand new person if that is the case. If that position has changed over for you, it's no problem, and we do not need a delegation of authority letter for an application. So if you're like, this is the first time you're applying for this particular grant, so that means there's no special delegation of authority that's needed. So don't attach that to your application, please. It's a little bit different if it's an amendment. All right, so moving on to the 44. Couple things about this. Okay, so the 44 is important to us because it assigns that official point of contact and your official authorized representative. The person you list in the SF-424 as your authorized representative, and it has to be the exact same person who signed your transmittal memo. It's very important. There can be only one authorized representative of a grant, and that person has to sign both documents. One point of confusion, a very common point of confusion in the grant solution system for the authorized representative on the SF-424, is that at the very bottom of the form, there is a signature field. And all day long, you can type someone's name into that signature field, but Grant Solutions will overwrite that person's name with the person who submits the application, like hits the submit button in Grant Solutions. So when your voter gets it, even if you typed the authorized representative's name in the signature field down below block 21, when your voter gets it, they'll see somebody else's name more than likely. This is okay. And we specifically say that in VPL 0323, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. So don't worry about that part. A couple of other little interesting things about the 424 is that on block 18A, the amount of federal funding you're requesting, that amount has to exactly match what you put on your VETS 401. Now, hopefully everybody knows that the amount you're requesting, it can't be more than the amount that we've published on our website as, what your state is allocated for FY26. It can be less, but no matter how much you ask for, it has to match in both of those documents, and 1% of that amount must be allocated for your incentive award. Okay. If you reviewed these or previewed these slides rather, you will notice a bunch of text in the notes field of these slides, some of these slides. That's just, I copy and pasted areas from VPL 0323 that were pertinent to this content into there. It's not my talking points. Obviously, I can't stick to those, but it is just, I was trying to make things convenient for you to have everything in one spot. Okay. Don't see any questions yet. So we'll move on to the 401. So I talked a little bit about it a moment ago, and this is another online form in Grant Solutions. Please do not upload a copy of it. So we do make the Excel version of this form available on our website for your convenience only, but you are never required to complete and submit that to VETS. And so please don't upload it to your application. So on the 404, rather, on the VETS 404 budget information summary, you will list out in section B the amounts by activity that you plan to spend on each cost category. So activity meaning DVOP, CODL, lever, incentive awards, and M&A costs, and then cost category are the rows going down. So salaries, benefits, travel, supplies, and others. And then below that in section C, yes, we ask for a breakout by quarter. And then below that is where you let us know the amount of staff of each type that can be fully funded by a grant, by the amount that you're requesting. So if you're requesting $1 million, we need to know how many staff of each type can be fully funded by that $1 million. So you can't add in funds that are kicked in by your state. So your state may kick in extra funding to the JVSG program so that you can have more JVSG staff. It may come from state funding streams, or it could come from Wagner Pizer. Some states do this, but what we ask is that you let us know how much you can do only with the allocation that you're asking for. It's very important. It allows us to be transparent with Congress about how far this $185 million a year appropriation can go. Another fun thing about the 401 is that it'll auto-calculate a few things for you down in section D. So what's kind of important to VETS is the salaries and benefits percentage. So just in the overall column, we want to know how much of your grant will be spent on specifically the salaries and benefits of DVOP, CODL, and lever staff. It offers more breakouts than that, but those are just for awareness only. Okay, 501. Okay. The VETS 501 is another Excel workbook. We love our Excel workbooks here in JVSG that we need you to upload to the application. That helps vets meet certain requirements that are, kind of obscure appropriations language, as well as, it helps your goder to understand where people are and what positions they're in, and maybe offer technical assistance or, just help them understand how your program operations better. So every row of this, we need all of the addresses of every position, even if that position's vacant. If your position is vacant, you can either leave the name field blank or you can put the word vacant in it. But we do need the little vacant checkbox with a yes in it if that's the case. In column 8, and this also is important, it's all important, we do need you to enter yes if the person in that position is not a veteran. So you can leave it blank if they are a veteran, but if they're a non-veteran, please put yes in that column next to them. It is okay for a JVSG funded staff to not be a veteran. So and I know that there's a lot of confusion about this. So I just want to put it out there. We know that certain eligible persons may be on that. They're actually listed as a priority in hiring for those positions. It doesn't matter. There's nothing to prevent you from assigning a non-veteran to the roles. Of course, we all know that a veteran can do it best, but just be clear with us about that status, please. All right, so there is an NBTI completion date column there on the 501, and I want to call your attention to that. If it's red, then it means that the person completed their NBTI training more than 18 months after their assigned date. It's not red as in no, wrong, you're bad, stop, you're fired. It's red as in maybe we should check this out. That's what the red flag means on this version of the 501. The next version will be different. It'll be yellow. But so just keep in mind that if you've already if this is old, if you addressed it last year as part of your AFA or the year before that or before that, there's no need to worry about it this year. But if it's new, if they are more newly hired and you haven't previously addressed it, it would be an excellent idea to reach out to your goder about that. And a really good idea to also address it in your transmittal memo. Not required, but it helps facilitate the process and minimizes the amount we have to go back and forth trying to get answers. All right, Carol asks a question. Oh, wait, before Carol's question, I'm going to. So, all right, whoa, we've got a few questions. Great. Actually, this is wonderful because I wanted to show you this anyway. Here we go. So I have sort of completed a VETS 501 form for you. All right, so I've got an address, I've got one staff name, I've got, one is vacant, so I put yes here, and here. So then we have to scroll a bazillion times to get to the bottom of the form. You don't have to scroll a bazillion times. Here's what I meant about filtering out the blank rows. Ready? So I'm up here in the office address field, the column header. I'm looking at this tiny little drop-down box right here. I'm going to squeeze that down and go down here to my filters. I don't want to see the blank rows. I don't want to see the rows that don't have anything in the address field. So I'm going to uncheck the blanks box. and click OK. Look at that. The form is suddenly short and manageable. Don't you love it? You love it. I can hear your applause. Okay. So that was the trick. That's it. You just have to, it won't let you sort, and I'm sorry, but it will let you filter out the blank rows, and I hope you find that helpful. I will just warn you that, you need to be careful about which row you're using for that. So if I were to filter out the blank rows for staff name, it would obscure that vacant staff row from the view. You don't want that. So, all right, and I'm just gonna clear that filter, and here we are again. I hope that helps. All right, so I guess we'll take a moment to catch up on our chat questions. All right, it says to filter out rows with the template. Okay, so that is, I just answered Lisa's question, I believe. Larry asks, in the 401, can we disperse funding needs equally, or do we need to anticipate FIFO funds from the previous year? Larry, I totally plan to cover that a little bit later, but the TLDR version is ignore your carry-in. Yeah, you may know you have a lot of carry-in, pretend you don't, and fill out your quarterly breakouts that way, because we need to know how much you're going to spend in each quarter. So yeah, I hope that helps. Carol, 401, S&B percentage of sum of lever and DVOP. What is minimum percentage of total budget required? For this calculation, does total budget include incentive award budget? Great questions. I always love your questions, Carol. So your first question is, what is the minimum percentage of the grant that must go toward the salaries and benefits of JVSG funded staff? There is no minimum. Okay, we use 65% as a benchmark to help us understand where we are in relation to the statutory requirement that JVSG funds be used for the salaries, benefits, and reasonable expenses of JVSG staff. What's a reasonable expense? Well, there's a lot of them. And for some states, honestly, they're only spending, just a little more than 50% on the salaries and benefits of JVSG staff. And it's unfortunate, but we understand you have costs and you need to, JVSG has to be paying its fair share of indirect costs and other direct costs. We need state veteran coordinators, and most of you will charge your salaries to the M&A, and so that doesn't count. So yeah, to answer the quick answer for your question is there's no minimum. For your other question, does the total budget include incentive award? No, incentive award planned and actual expenses are not included in the salaries and benefits percentage calculation. Just to make things a little bit more level for states who do versus don't do individual cash awards. So I think that answers both your questions. Feel free to elaborate if I missed any part of that. Dan Burton sent a link to the vets or the JVSG forums page. I think Lisa's question is more, it's not, there's nothing wrong with your template. It's just the fact that you might have missed that little drop down box where you can filter out the blank rows. Nikita, I noticed that the 401 and 501 have expiration dates that have passed 6/30/2025. Is that an issue? No, Nikita, that's not an issue. And here's why. Vets has requested OMB's approval of our, of these forms. So we asked for another 3-year version. So we made some adjustments, and it's still pending with OMB to let us know if those are approved. Because we got our application in timely, our whole package for renewal in timely, we have an automatic month-to-month extension on that expiration date until OMB gives us the response. So I hope that helps. So it's just absolutely business as normal. Nobody likes having you have to fill out a form that appears to have a problem with it and not be OMB approved, but I have checked into this and been assured that it is appropriate for us to continue requiring the use of those forms at the moment. Thanks, Natalie, for covering that. Okay, does the 501 and 401 FTE count need to match? That's a great question. Not exactly. I guess it depends on where you're asking about. So you can have more staff listed on the 501 than your funding level, your allocation level can fully support. That is totally fine. We do require an explanation and an assurance about that on the transmittal memo if that's the case. However, there's another little piece to it. Bring up that 501 again at some point. Oh, it's playing that fun game where it's not coming up. Okay, I will use my words. At the very bottom of the VETS 501 form, the very bottom, there are these little blanks or these little fields. It does a lot of summaries about how many staff you have and sort of different things about them. There is one data entry field in the bottom of the form that frequently gets missed. And it is the approved FTE field. In that field, please enter the total from your VETS 401. So on your VETS 401, you have the total number of staff down in section D. That number should match what is on the bottom of your VETS 501. I hope that helps. Okay, right? How again do we filter out the blank rows? So Lori explained at the top column, drop down arrow, click it, uncheck the blank rows button. Oh, it came up this time for me. I will demo one more time for you. I'll blow it way up. All right, here's the magic. Don't miss it. Where is it? This button right here, this little arrow, pull that down. Go to the little blanks one, the blanks option, and uncheck it. That will make the blank rows invisible. It'll hide them. So that's how it's done. All right. Thank you all for those questions. If we're good for now, I'll carry on, but don't stop the questions. Keep them coming. Man, they were all in chat, so no bonus points for anybody, but we'll keep doing what we do. All right. So I think we covered all of this. Going on to the state plan. So the JVSG state plan serves as your official statement of work, and that's a big deal in government grants. Okay, we need your statement of work. Your 4-year JVSG state plan counts as that. So we have to have it uploaded to your application so that it can then be put in your application or in your grant award package. It's all technical stuff. We apologize for, needing you to do this, but it is necessary. Most of the reason it's necessary is because states have the option of either submitting a standalone plan or combining their JVSG plan with a combined WIO estate plan. Because there are these different spots where a plan might be found, we have to have one organized place for all of them. So that's that. For almost every single one of you, the JVSG state plan that you attach to your FY26 annual funding application will be the same one that you attach to your 25 annual funding application. Very few modifications have been done in this last year, so it should be pretty straightforward for you. Okay, we got a question from Jennifer. If we currently have a position filled but plan to eliminate it if or when it becomes vacant, should we just include that information in your transmittal memo? That's a great question. I haven't heard that one in a while. So, um, on your VETS 501, um, you will anticipate whatever you think will be true as of October 1st, the beginning of your period of performance. Those are the positions that you list there. So if you already know that this position is going to be vacant by that point, then you can just leave them off. Um, if that position, if you think they'll still be on board by that point, leave them on the 501. So that may make your total number of staff exceed the number on your 401 that you have indicated can be fully supported by the grant. So let's say on the 401 you've got 20 staff, but this person who's going to be leaving but hasn't yet makes it 21. That does need to be addressed on the transmittal memo. And in that situation, you could say, that the position will be vacant, expected by whatever date, or however you simply want to put it. I hope that helps, Jennifer. All right, state plan. Good. So back to state plan. So if you're planning to modify your state plan, that's fine. It needs to happen outside of the annual funding application process because the AFAs have to be done in a certain timeline, and we kind of need them all to be set by a certain point in time. State plan changes can get complicated and messy, so we need it to be separate from the applications. Okay, if you do, like, let's say tomorrow you realize that you need to change your state plan and you start working on modifications for that, it doesn't affect your application process. Where at whatever point you're ready to submit your annual funding application, just go ahead and attach whatever approved version you already have while you continue to work on the separate change to your state plan. Don't hold up your application for state plan changes, please. We get we have to follow a certain timeline, and kind of all these things have to happen at once. So it makes it really tricky if you have delays. Okay, we've got another technical question. All right, in row 21 of the SF424, it makes mention of lists of certifications and assurances. This top box typically pointed to the SF424B, however, it's not now mentioned in 21. So you may be remembering the SF424M, which until 2 years ago, that's used for this exercise. Okay. So the 424M said something about the 424B, but with the SF424, which you're currently using, it is automatically included. So if whoever's name is in that authorized representative box, that person is automatically making all of the certifications and assurances that are listed on the SF424B. That was pretty weedy. I hope it helps, but you don't need to worry about it. Your authorized representative will be responsible for all of those items. Thanks for your question. Okay, where are we? We're moving on to ICR documentation. All right, so you either have a negotiated indirect cost rate or you have a cost allocation plan. Whichever one you have, or occasionally I hear of states that have both, upload that to your annual funding application if you have an approved one. That is effective October 1st, 2025. So if your approved indirect cost rate expires on September 30th or whenever, before October 1st, don't upload it, just leave it out. And in your transmittal memo, you can say, we're working on our approved indirect cost rate. And then later on, after your grant's awarded and you get your approved rate, then you can upload all of that as a grant note. So work with your GOATer, they can get you the instructions on how to manage all of that. The bottom line is, we don't want your communications about trying to get an indirect cost rate approved. We don't need proof that you have requested it. Just mention it in your TM and your gold. Brandon just included a very helpful link to a webinar about indirect costs. Okay. I think that's it on ICRs. We can always circle back if there's a question. Your resources for annual funding applications, we've got a pretty good VPL on it. There's a couple of things that are slightly outdated at this point, but it is still very solid. But aside from the VPL, you have your GOATer. Through your GOATer, you can ask questions anytime. They will reply to you with accurate technical assistance in a timely manner. And so lean on them for any issues you're having, whether it's with the requirements or with Grant Solutions interface, check with them. They may be able to help you troubleshoot. Your GOATer also has a couple of tools, like internal kind of tools that we use. One of those is a desk aid. It's kind of a checklist thing. Your GOATer might find it helpful to share that with you. And then there's also a sample transmittal memo that will help you only put in the TM what we absolutely require, and not have a lot of stress. So if you follow the TM feedback I've gotten from previous years was that the whole application process went a lot more smoothly because there weren't kickbacks because, oh, you forgot to mention some obscure thing on your transmittal memo. The sample transmittal memo follows the VPL and will help you answer just the questions that we have to have. Okay. Now we'll dive into the common issues. So we'll hit first on indirect costs and the management and admin costs. So every dollar that is spent on a federal grant, it's categorized in two ways. So first, it's either a program cost or an administrative cost. And also, it's either a direct cost or an indirect cost. Most program costs, as in what you need, what can definitely, you point to this and it is definitely your program. Most program costs are going to be direct costs, but some administrative costs are also going to be direct costs. All right, bear with me. So, but almost every single indirect cost happens to be an admin cost. It's just the way those different things are defined. So for this reason, on the VETS 401, when we look in section B in the indirect cost row, we would not expect to see any indirect costs listed under DVOP, CODL, or lever, and they cannot be under incentive awards. Okay, pretty much all of the time, all of your indirect costs should be piled under the M&A cost activity. But don't worry, there's a workforce GPS smart training available on indirect costs and things like that that will maybe explain it in a better way for you. There's a link here in the slides. And I've got about 2 more slides on this topic for us to go over it some more. So I've been trying to refine this little table to give you more of a visual on all of those words I just said. All right, so every cost is either direct or indirect, and either a program or administrative cost. And since, as we covered, in almost every dollar of indirect costs are spent on something that's an administrative cost, you know, that's where we expect to see that showing up on the 401. One more slide on this. It's just a demo of a 401 section B. So here in section B, and so of course this is just an image of it, but we see that in this row in H indirect charges, we don't see anything. Oh, where'd it go? We don't see anything in these 4 rows. There's no budgeted indirect costs as part of these program costs. They are all instead piled under M&A costs. Questions about this? And I'm really pausing here because I look at a lot of vets 401s, and in almost every 401 I see, there are costs listed here under DVOP, CODL, and lever. But I don't understand how that can be. It's rare for an indirect cost to be a program cost. They're administrative costs almost all the time. So when you're completing your VETS 401 this year, please check that out. Please make sure it is listed here. And I understand that the basis of the confusion on this item is that you think your direct cost base is maybe direct salaries and benefits. So you're saying, well, okay, since I'm spending $750 on salaries and benefits for DVOP, then my 27% indirect cost rate, so I'm going to put 27% of this down here in indirect charges. That's not the way it works out. So Carol's question. Let's read through this since she's shy. We heard from a fiscal consultant that de minimis rate is or will be 15% of a modified total budget, and that will be able to select the de minimis rate effective October 1st, even if you have an approved indirect cost rate. Yes, Carol, that is right. That is true. I wasn't really expecting JVSG recipients to go as low as 15% on their indirect costs. But if that's all you need, certainly you can check that box and put your 15% of your grant right here, 15% or less. So yes, Carol, go ahead.
I have bonus points, right? Okay.
Yes, 2 bonus points because you're the first.
Oh, okay. So I just want to make sure too that it is 15% because it was 10. So it's 15% and because it's 15% of the total modified budget, which is almost our entire budget. So it comes out to actually a little more than our approved indirect cost rate. And the advantage is that we don't have to keep submitting every time we have a approved provisional rate, then an approved actual rate. And the approval of the actual rate can often happen way into the grant period or after the grant period. So it's hard to
Vastly
keep up.
simplifies matters, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yes. So you're right. And I understand, like, yes, it was 10% and now it's 15%. That's because the uniform guidance changed. There was an update to 2 CFR Part 200. It had a lot of changes in it, and this is one of many. So the de minimis rate is now 15%, not 10. And also of interest, the definition of equipment also changed. So it used to be $5,000 for per unit for was the definition for equipment and useful life of over a year. Well, now it's $10,000 is the cutoff for equipment. So a lot of interesting changes there, and thanks for bringing that up.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again for your question. Everyone, be more like Carol. Okay. All right. Did we beat this dead horse quite enough? I mean, on the M&A costs being, all the indirect charges go in the M&A costs. Not seeing raised hands. Oh, there's one. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I had to answer a question about whether I would allow use of my video and audio. Uh, so as far as putting it in that column there in the management and admin, we're still going to compute the indirect cost like we always have based upon like the total amount of the grant, right? This is
Yes.
just an administrative thing that instead of breaking it out into 4 different sections, you just want it all there in one, right?
Yes, please. But it's not just because of what I want. It's because we don't categorize costs based on what they're based on. We categorize them based on what it's spent on. And when you spend indirect costs, do you know what they go for? I mean, you probably, can get a list of all of everything that's in your indirect cost pool, what you're spending that money on.
Right.
But if you look at it, I guarantee you almost always it will be an administrative cost. It won't be assigned to a program. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Well, but I noticed that the indirect charges you have here are more than the total direct charges in the management and admin.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that means that you're not calculating the indirect charges off of the management and admin costs, you're calculating them off the total amount that's spent, right?
You're assigning them to the M&A cost category or activity because when you spend indirect cost money,
Mhm.
it's administrative, like it's administrative costs. So it's fine that it's more than the direct costs within this specific category.
Okay.
The indirect charges, you just assign that here because that's what you spend it on, not because you're only doing whatever 15% of M&A costs.
Okay.
So really, in this case, let's assume that in this state, indirect costs, their direct cost base is going to be all direct salaries and benefits, just to keep it simple.
Mhm.
So when we look at that, we're looking over here actually in the totals column. That's why they can spend, 340,000 on indirect costs is because it's X% of, $2 million thereabouts.
Okay. That makes
Does that
sense.
help at
That
all?
answers my question. That's what I was asking. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks for your question and for coming on camera. Tony, you're up next. Yes, you have to answer the question.
The question. Okay, thank you. So I understand that that's on the 401 and that makes sense. Does that transfer over to the EDR? So typically when I'm completing the EDR, all of the other outlays, that indirect is included in other outlays in the EDR. Would I then instead move that indirect cost into the M&A?
Yes, that is
Okay.
accurate. It's not something that I had addressed here, but it's true that, on your EDR, you report based on what you spend the thing on. So, and you're spending your indirect costs on, on administrative stuff. So yes, it should be recorded under the M&A section of the EDR.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great question. Okay. Not seeing any more. Oh, just in time. Please go ahead with your question.
There we go. Sorry. All right, Rebecca. I apologize. This is Arkansas. Listen, all right, getting back to this, to the indirect charges. So, for instance, we have a NECRA, and we've got to stay according to what we presented to the feds as part of our NECRA. All right, so you're saying that we go ahead and calculate the indirects based on PSPB for DVOP.
No, let me stop you right there.
All right. All right.
I'm not
Get me
telling you
straight.
I'm not telling you how to calculate indirect costs.
Okay.
I'm telling you which column of the of the 401 it needs to be captured in. Okay, so you by all you need to follow your agreement, with your cognizant agency.
Okay.
Do not let me derail you from that.
Okay, got it. I just wanted to make sure. Because that was a little confusing because yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, so I'm throwing out percentages and numbers and stuff for demo purposes only. Yeah,
Okay.
And I'm saying, the direct cost base is this. That's not going to be the case in every state. It's also going to include certain other costs.
Right.
You do what
Agreed.
your finance department tells you to do in that respect.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for clarifying that and not just sitting on it and worrying.
No problem, then. You cleared everything up for me. Thank you very much. Perfect. Sorry about that.
No worries. Okay, so yes, Ray knows this too. Negotiated through your state agency. All right. It occurs to me that I've only got 10 minutes left with you officially, but I will stay with you as long as you need me. But let's try to get through this next little section before our time expires. So the other kind of pain point that I would love to see improvement on this year is Section C of the 401. In Section C, we ask that you show us your quarterly breakouts based on how much you will need to spend in each quarter by activity. So many of you are doing it a little bit differently and saying, oh, well, I have so much carry in that I won't even need to spend any FY26 money until the third quarter. Well, hey, I mean, it's great that you have some carry in, but we need to know how much you need to spend in each quarter of JVSG funds. So pretend you've got no carry in and break it out for us that way. In the next slide, I just used another little example, of one kind of just some demo that I've got for you. So we see here in this one, in the first quarter of their, sorry, there's a cat, of their grant. They've got 2.4 million. In the first quarter, they plan to spend 450, and then gradually increasing each quarter to 830 in the last quarter. So that would make you wonder, what's going on? Are they, they're bringing in half a quarter's worth of funds, and so they're kind of reducing, or maybe they just have lower staffing in the first quarter and they plan to staff up later in the year. But so that's one thing. And then another thing is, like, I'm still very often seeing that, okay, so in this case, the state planned to spend $950 total on DVOP next year. So they'll take $950 and divide by 4 and put those values here. That doesn't help us. Please break it out based on your own expenditures. I know for the JVSG budget, we have bills to pay just like you do. And I have very few bills in the first and second quarter. And then in quarters 3 and 4, that's when I start having to shell out money. So just based on the rhythm that's in your state and when your bills come due, do go ahead and try to estimate those for us. Okay. Let me catch some items here. So I noticed the sample TM is addressed to Grant Officer Kia Mason with a note not to send it to the GOATer. That's different from your past submissions. Yes, I know that most states were sending the TMs to their GOATer. Officially, the grant officer is the one that the TM should be addressed to. Are we going to kick it back just for that? So the rest of your annual funding application is perfect. but you have this one thing, it's addressed to not quite the right person. No, I don't think any of us would kick back your application for that reason. But officially, it's true that the TM should be addressed to the grant officer who issues the award. Great question. Thank you, Seth. Next question is, so you're saying that project what you plan to spend even if you have carry forward. That's exactly right. Yeah, you nailed it. Let us know what you plan to spend, by quarter. Just pretend you don't have carryover for the purposes of budgeting. That helps us to more accurately support you. And as states improve in the accuracy of this part of the 401, it allows us to build better tools that behind the scenes allow us to project your spending and estimate when you're going to need money, so that we can do a better job of getting the states that need money by the time they need money. So it's complicated, but thank you for that question as well. Oh, you've got your hand up, Anthony. Please go ahead.
Oh, yeah, you answered my question. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Great question. Thank you. All right. Getting close to the end of my time with you here. So just the key takeaway is your GOATer has all the answers, and if they don't immediately have them, they have a whole village behind them to help get them the answers they need so that they can in turn help you out. We do ask that you please do not contact our grant officer, Kia Mason, directly. She is incredible, but she is the only grant officer for vets and our 300 plus grants. And so we try to minimize her workload and help you with questions to the greatest extent we can. So that's just my request for you. And that is it, but I remain here if you have any additional questions or things you'd like to share about the annual funding application process at this point. So thank you again for joining me today. I really appreciate your time and your dedication to getting it right and making things smooth for not only your staff but for your vets GOATers as well. It means a lot to us. Okay. Looks like we're all good. Thanks again. Have a good one.
Looks like you have a hand raised still.
I do? Okay. Whoever you are, please go ahead.
Hey, hello, it's Mike Tippin again. Just a question on the forecast. I assume since this is just a budget and it's just to help you all with your forecasting and all that, if, for example, we project less in the first or second quarter, okay, and our actuals ended up being more than that, that won't cause any problems with drawdowns or anything like that, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a budget. We know it's an estimate. If you need more, you need less, it's fine. I mean, and especially if you have carry-in, right? You're not going to use any of this right away. It just helps us with our projections, and so we know how much carry-in you have. You don't have to tell us. We already have that data through your quarterly reports. So we kind of compile all this together, your needs versus your actual expenditures, to make sure that we get you what you need when you need it.
Okay, great. Thank you again for your time.
Thanks for your question. And then Derek is up next.
Yes, Rebecca, I think I missed this portion. As far as with the salaries and benefits percentage of your overall costs, in majority of cases we use like 65% as just a guide. But is there a limit on how high your percentage of salaries and benefits pertaining to your overall costs?
Is there a limit on how high? No.
Yeah.
If you want to spend 100% of your grant on salaries and benefits of DBOP, CODL, and lever staff, that's great. I mean, I doubt you can actually do it because then you'd be kicking in from other funding streams,
right?
Which we actually need you to tell us how far the money actually gets you, not the money plus your other funding streams, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
there's
So
no
basically looking
minimum
for that.
or maximum on S&B. We capture this information so that we have a better understanding of like across all 54 of you guys, the JVSG recipients. We know like what the pain points are. We do ask for a brief explanation if your planned level is below 65%. Again, not something we can kick back and say, oh, your S&B is too low, not allowed. We can't do that. So we just need to know what's going on so that we have kind of a better general understanding. Hope that helps.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, it looks like there's another question in chat. On the SF424, do I find the answer for 12? Do I find the answer for 12 and 13?
Sorry. Where?
Wendy, or did you have a question? Oh, you don't have that question. Okay.
No.
I get it now.
I'm right.
I'm tracking.
I don't know if you can see or hear me. I apologize.
I can hear you.
Oh, I don't know why I turned my camera off. Oh, wait. There we go. Hello.
There you are. Hi.
Hi. I've only done this like once or twice, and I know it's foolish. It's probably right in front of me, but time constraint, you're working fast. So on the 424, I was looking at for the numbers 12 and 13. And I do happen to have it. I know it's a foolish thing. I'm like, where do I find? So number 12 is the funding opportunity number.
77 Casino in Walt Hill, Nebraska.
Oh, wow. Are you from Nebraska? Is that what we're hearing in your background, or maybe that's somebody else? Okay.
That's not me.
Okay.
I'm in Maine.
So,
I apologize. I'm in Maine.
No worries. So on the FOA number, is it a required field? If it's not required, don't worry about it. If it is,
it does have an asterisk. If that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Don't ignore it then. So the JVSG funding opportunity number it's on that automatic email that you should have received when I sent the directed announcement live. It should be there. It's something like JVSG FY26. Just put in whatever around that makes sense. If it's not exactly that, it's okay. If you spell out JVSG, but just try to put something along the lines of FY26 JVSG, and that'll be fine.
Okay, and number 13 is not a requirement. It's just one of those things, I thought it'd be right in front of me with the announcements, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your question. Well, I know there's a lot going on that form. Thanks for your attention to it. All right, Carol, you've got another question?
Yeah, I was going to ask about expenditures, and this isn't about the funding application, so it's off topic. It's if the projected expenditures during the course of the grant period are going to deviate from the budget by that combined amount of 10% or more of the total grant, then how late can we submit that? I guess we have to submit a modification, even if the expenditures are going to be not to the level of the budget. In other words, if there's a balance in a certain cost category, that balance cannot be spent until, can't we just leave the balance and let that be returned, and then we use a new grant?
No, don't give us back money, Carol. We need you to spend the money. Unless you really don't want it, in which case, please give it to us early in the year so that we can actually turn it around to a state who needs it. So, what Carol's asking about, for those who are interested and intrigued, is this column, the totals column. When we're talking about the budget deviating by more than 10% in any cost category from the plan, then it is required for all recipients to submit a modification request for a budget realignment to make sure to bring those into to correct your budget, basically. So it's really interesting. You can ignore these activities, the dividing line between DVOP, consolidated lever, and M&A costs. It doesn't matter, obviously incentive awards have to stay put. But if you're moving more than 10% of your grant, for example, from salaries to supplies or other to travel, if overall then the amount you're moving from one category to another exceeds 10% of this amount, the total amount of the grant, then you have to submit a budget realignment request. And as far as the timing for that, you have to submit it as soon as you're aware that it's going to happen. And it doesn't matter if it's within the fiscal year or not. It's just any time within your period of performance. Because if you get to grant closeout and the grants management staff who work for Kia notice that this was your budget, but you deviated from it too much, then they will stop everything and then they have to require you to do a budget realignment request at that point. And by that point, like maybe a year or two has passed, and then it's just kind of hard to track down all the things that happened at that point. Did I capture it for you, Carol, or did I leave anything out?
Nope,
okay.
You captured it perfectly. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, thanks for your question. We do get a lot of misunderstanding on budget realignments. So, right, do we have anyone else with a question up? And I'm so sorry for calling anybody out for being in Nebraska. Okay. Oh, Dorothy. Oh, no, you were just teasing me by coming on camera for a minute.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Don't have a question.
No question? Okay, wonderful. Michael again? I don't know.
I know. I keep asking questions. I'm so sorry, but
I love
to
it.
keep things clear. So just to make sure I understand, for example, the personnel salaries, and we budget that we think we're going to spend this much on DVOP, this much consolidated lever. I thought it was those that were more than 10%, and it's not. So if that changes throughout the year, we can just move salaries however we want.
That's right. On your EDR, that very section B of the EDR where you put your allocations, move it around all you like. Not incentive awards. You can't move that. You only have the amount that you have. But for DevOps and lever, for the other ones, yes, please do reassign those as needed to make sure, you're running your program operations, and we know that you may need to change those around. There's no limits on those changes as long as, so I do have to qualify this. If let's say you're taking out all of your lever and you're moving all your lever costs over to DVOP, not going to have levers anymore. Well, then you have to look at your JVSG state plan and see if that needs to be modified to accommodate this brand new way of doing business. Does that make sense? So from a budgetary perspective, it's totally allowed. But from an operational, your statement of work says you're going to have levers. Well, you need to evaluate whether your plan needs to be modified.
Okay, so you mentioned not holding up based upon state plan modification. So say if we are changing the way we do business, for example, if we were to cut out levers and we're part of a combined state plan, okay, which has it in there, so it's not that easy to change, but we would need to start that process if we change the way we did business and it doesn't align with the current state plan, right?
In your case, like if you're already decided that this is the way it's going to be effective October 1st, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, just for example.
For example. Well, right. For example, like we would want to really look into that on a case-by-case basis. But if you were dead set, like, okay, September 30th, we don't have any codals, we don't have any levers. And I mentioned codals because, they're doing lever activities. So that could result in your, still being fine on your state plan. You might not need to change it.
Okay, so if we took away levers, but we had codals who were doing the lever stuff, we might not have to modify it. I see what you mean.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, just depending on how your plan is written.
Got it. Okay. Sorry to ask so many questions, but I appreciate the
No,
answers.
don't be sorry. I love it. Thank you so much. I mean, if you're asking, I'm sure there's, 10 other people, who need to know that too.
Thank you.
Did we exhaust all the questions? Everybody's good? Hey, I'll let you go then. Thanks again so much. Have a good one.